Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Shortcut. Today, we are going to be talking about all the lessons we've learned from going viral on YouTube many times, and also the lessons we've learned from making videos that I'm pretty proud of that completely flopped. Today, I am joined by Greg, as usual. Greg, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. We're putting to the test our advice to make sure you have great audio, even if you have mediocre video.
Eh,
Having some technical difficulties with gear on my end, but I think this is a really exciting episode. I think, you know, there have been some times in the past where even when we've reviewed like internal performance among marketing teams, we do this like sins and wins, basically. Like taking a look at stuff that really worked well and stuff that didn't, and then trying to kind of just like unpack like what happened, what assumptions did we make that were wrong, what stuff panned out that we didn't expect. And I think this is kind of like a mini version of that for
yeah.
YouTube. Like we're using viral and definitely kind of like a brand context, but I think there's a ton of interesting stuff to kind of like unpack with our channel for sure.
Cool. Yeah, so for those of you who maybe aren't aware or need a refresher, I'll just quickly show our YouTube channel. So this is our YouTube channel. We got just under 200,000 subscribers. And as you can see, we have made tons of videos before. If you go to our most popular ones, which a lot of these are the ones we'll be talking about today, you can see we have videos, many videos with over 1 million views. So obviously we have a thing to say about sort of going viral and what that can mean for a brand, the impact that can have, or maybe surprisingly, and spoilers, but sometimes lack thereof. And so, yeah, I just sort of wanted to bring up and go into detail into some of these videos that have gone really viral. And we can actually start with this NFT one. I think is a really good one to start with, which has 4.3 million views, how to make and sell an NFT. And I have all of their analytics pages pulled up as well. So this is the analytics. You can get the behind the scenes scoop today.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this has gotten just about 4.4 million views. This video alone has made $70,000, which is kind of insane. The CPM on this video is really high because it's about like finance and crypto and whatever. But more interestingly, I think, is the subscriber count. We have gotten over 50,000 subscribers from one single video, which is kind of mind-boggling. And yeah, if you think about it, that's, over 25% of our entire main channel subscriber count comes from one video. And interestingly also, this is a video that is not really very related to our product. So it was probably great for our YouTube channel in terms of putting us on the map, increasing that subscriber count. But I don't think it brought too many users actually over to our product, number one. And number two, because we don't actually make like NFT content or crypto content or anything like that, I don't think most of these viewers are really return viewers. It's sort of a subscribe once and aren't too loyal, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, this does have a really large view duration for us, for our channel, 4 minutes, 38% average view of the entire video. And then if you also go to the CTR, it's 11%, which is quite good for our channel. So that's definitely one of the videos I find most interesting, is like one of our most successful videos in some ways and also less successful in others.
Yeah. And I think like something I would have, so obviously like one complication with marketing is sometimes like what you're measuring or focusing on today isn't always sort of what the focus was a few years ago. And sometimes like in a similar kind of like sense, the telemetry is not set up in order to measure the things that you're focused on today. So a quick example for this video would be, I would love to see like now that we as a marketing team look at something called PQLs, which is we look at a couple different things, but PQLs are part of the way we triangulate. Basically, are we reaching the people that are most likely to be successful and pay for the product and expand and all that kind of stuff? So PQL, product qualified lead, it's just kind of how we define a customer that really is like best fit for Kapwing. I would love to see, like, had we been collecting data on that at the time, like what a video like that would have contributed, because it obviously pushes the boundaries of like what's in our sort of expected, you know, areas of relevance, like basically
Right.
like our circle of like relevance of like where what space our product kind of plays in. It was definitely kind of more the mentality, I think, at the time, just to like experiment with like, is the idea popular, right? And we were just, the team was just like trying a lot of stuff to see what would stick. So that's one where I think I would love retrospectively to like look back, and this is now something that I think we have a much better sense on of like, oh, if a video were to really take off, you know, we have measures in place to show like, well, are they PQLs? Are they accounts that like convert at a decently high rate? Like, can we attribute like paying customers, you know, with over 3 seats to
Mhm.
this video's growth? Like, we have a lot better ways to kind of zoom in. But I think definitely what stands out to me, I heard YouTube's former creator liaison um, describe that like the way you want to look at the subscribe button nowadays is basically like channel. So it's kind of like he was trying to sort of emphasize that like subscription on YouTube is not like subscription to like an email newsletter. It actually
Yeah.
is not the same sort of guarantee that they'll see future content. It's kind of just like a plus one of like generally like the channel, so to speak. So I also think it'd be interesting to dig even deeper into terms of like exactly how many repeat viewers or how many like next videos people from that video like checked out. I would probably go with your gut instinct that it's like probably not that much. But as a standalone video, obviously it was exceptionally well done, like just as a standalone video on YouTube. But yeah, kind of on, you know, decoding like, did it help our channel or did it help our business is like a little bit more complicated, right? So
Right.
that's what I find really interesting about that video is like there is stuff to take away from the individual video as being a great standalone video, and then there's like this whole other side of it, which is like, what did it do for like the business or like the marketing team's goals, right?
Right.
So really interesting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing to note too, I think, before we hop to the next one, because it'll be relevant to the second one I show, is to look at this graph here of views. You can see, you know, it did very well in the first month, you know, a couple
Hmm.
100,000 views, but then it has like a huge spike, um, all sort of very quickly, um, around, I don't know, half a year or even a year, like up to a year after it was posted. So we were pretty ahead of the game. So being early to something is like really important. I think we were one of the first channels to cover like how to create an NFT.
Yeah.
And then you can see it like really tapers off. I mean, obviously it still gained, you know, maybe 1 million views or so in the past like couple of years, but it's not the same like consistent level of growth. Whereas
Hmm.
this second one I'm going to show you guys, which is our highest viewed video on our channel ever, about how to make any video sound your alarm or ringtone. Um,
Hmm.
you can see the graph is like way different. It's like much more consistent. Um, within the last 48 hours, you can even see we've gotten close to 7,000 views. On the NFT one, it's only 400, and they have only 1 million views difference. So it's not like they should have
Yeah.
like a huge discrepancy. But yeah, so this one is like really a long tail video that has done well for us. But you can see also the huge difference in subscriber number. The view duration's only 1 minute 30 as opposed to 4 minutes for NFTs. The
Yeah.
average percentage viewed is lower. The revenue's lower. And yeah, I think this is really interesting because this is a different sort of use case. This is like, but sorry, to note,
Yeah.
like probably more importantly is that in this tutorial, it's like really kind of heavily using our product. Um,
Hmm.
we in this tutorial the whole thing is to find a video that you like and take the link. And if you paste it into Kapwing, it'll extract the video. You can then turn it into an MP3 and download it. And so this got a lot of people using Kapwing for the first time. Maybe not, to Greg's point, like, PQLs, brands or things like that. But at the time when we made this video, our marketing strategy was a little bit different. We were really focusing on like top of funnel, and really just attracting new users. And so like this was really successful, I think, at the time for us at just bringing people onto Kapwing and creating an account and using like our free tool at that time.
Yeah. And I think this one really like highlights that balance that I think all marketing teams feel, but especially marketing teams where the product is so I guess well suited for like self-serve. Like this video, I'm sure, having watched it, did not take that much time to produce, right?
Yeah.
So once again, like is it pushing the boundaries of like what we see like most of our like best fit customers kind of needing Kapwing for? Sure, like absolutely. It's like much more consumer focused. Kapwing as a product at the time was much more consumer focused rather than like teams and business focused. But it got a lot of exposure. Like it got a lot of people to kick the tires. It got seen by a lot of people with the product front and center in the video, and then the effort to produce it was like significantly sort of lower than your average really high effort like brand or campaign video, right? Very scrappy. So I think again, it highlights to me like it's really a tricky trade-off in terms of just like you see a need in the market that's like somewhat adjacent to the product. Like how precious should you be about like, well, it's not within our like, immediate sort of like ICP's like sphere of concern, right? I think that the other thing that's interesting is like you mentioned this like slow viral. We'll talk about this a little bit throughout this video, but it was a slow build. It wasn't sort of like viral overnight. It was like a sort of growth over time. And then the difference between the NFT video being like there was a trend there that died. Like and when you look at these back to back, you can see like where people stopped caring about that topic, whereas like they basically did not, that did not happen with this topic. They still care about it almost to an equal rate, and the video seems to be like maybe not in YouTube's eyes, at least in the viewer's eyes, at least, not sort of like subjected to time as much, meaning like just the fact that it's old doesn't really stop it from being useful. Whereas like the interest in NFTs, like it's just wildly different, from the past couple of years. So that's really interesting too. And like the NFT one might have broke out the gate a little bit faster, but this one has kind of had more of a like marathon, a marathon sort of run in terms of growth, right?
Definitely, yeah. Also, if you look at the CTR rate, this one's super high, 19%. This is probably one of the highest on our channel. I think this is, it's hard because it's I think both you're rewarded with a higher CTR for a video that does really well because you're, on the first page, you're at the top, maybe you're the top video when you search. And so like the CTR is going to be much higher, but something to note. And also if you look at the overview, and I should have mentioned this probably for the last one too, like YouTube search is really what's driving these numbers. Same with the NFT video, 70% from search, only like 13% from suggested. Suggested for the alarm video, 3%. It's like really, these are most of our top topics are driven by search. Definitely something to note. Next, I will show you a video that I made about a year ago, which was our Kapwing tutorial on how to use Kapwing, pretty much how to use the entire editor, a bunch of different tools, very comprehensive, over 20 minutes long for 2023. And you can see, this one doesn't have millions and millions of views. This is like relatively viral. But a good example of like a video that is insanely useful and relevant to our product. It's
Mm-hmm.
not trending, but it is something that people still search for. And it's a video that also grows because we embed it a lot of places on our website. It's used for, to help like help center articles, and our customer service uses this video. And so this is a video that's like not probably viral because of YouTube necessarily, but just because like it's really useful for our product and we can use it everywhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think this is, when you're thinking about your YouTube channel for your brand, there's an instinct to like chase after, yeah, all these trending topics, but sometimes it's actually very useful to make sure that you're prioritizing, uh, content about your brand too, even if it's not like gonna get millions of views overnight. This is like a slow grower that's really important.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, you're right. Like, so to give context on this, because we wanted to kind of have a bit of a contrast here, right? Like, it's more interesting, I think, to see videos that are contrasting to each other. So this one is viral really more in the sense of like it being a truly product focused video, not
Yeah,
like a use case where our product is part of the solution, but like literally how to use the product. This is one of our very best performing videos. And I think, like you mentioned, to give some other context of like other videos like this, right? So getting into kind of marketing nitty gritty here, but we have some videos where we can actually trace back, even when you look at the link in the description, we can attribute a meaningful number of accounts that signed up with like X plus team members from that link in the description. And usually those videos are videos like that. That seems to be the pattern. It seems to be videos where we are actually talking about like our product directly, and sort of giving you an overview of it. Maybe to no one's surprise. I mean, I think to the extent that I've seen it, though, is kind of surprising or at least interesting. Um, yeah, those tend to be the videos that really send back like a clear, tangible number of customers, and customers who are, again, like multiple seats, longer term retention, stuff like this. So yeah, this is another really interesting kind of like, you have to weigh the balance. Like, you have to kind of find the balance between videos that are good for like the channel growth and just like broad exposure to your product, and then videos that are actually, they're sending people back directly of like, we're going to sign up, let's check this out, and swipe the credit card. And
right.
I think again, something where I will say we're still kind of getting into the groove of this, but I think something will be better like equipped to track going forward, um, is the ability of these like more top of funnel videos to send people to the product who we get the attribution from, like a self report. So they sign up, they see the video, they watch it on mobile, and then later on their desktop, they actually Google Kapwing, or just go to kapwing.com, and then they sign up, right? Obviously, that breaks attribution in a lot of cases. Marketers always obviously know this, but the ask of like, where did you first hear from us? That has been a great way for us to flag like where YouTube is like adding people who then check us out through some other channel, where in attribution software would be misreported because it might say like branded search or whatever, right? Or direct or what have you. But I think like we'll also be able to see, uh again, videos that like send customers directly, and like last touch, last click, we can, sort of show like, no, this was like the video that sent them to this page where they converted, which
Yeah.
is really cool too. But I think we have to strike like to really truly show the impact of our channel overall outside of just the views, because we don't use the channel for like paid retargeting. We just use it to grow the business organically. We will sort of find, I think, a better mix of, when we're growing views significantly, but the topics are kind of stretching like our core areas. Is that paying us back in terms of just more people saying they found us on YouTube? And then for the videos that are like directly about our product, can we see and attribute a lot of direct sign up from those videos? And we have to basically view and goal those types of videos differently, because
Yeah.
no one should ever look at this video and say like it should have got 500,000 views. That's kind of an impossible task for most people to like make a literal product tutorial like go viral.
Yeah.
So it has to be gold completely differently than than some of the other stuff that's about reach, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think like, yeah, relative, you have to keep things relative in terms of how you mark success, because I would say this is very successful as well because it continues to get views. But not
Hmm.
only that, we were also sort of competing against our own content when we made this. So for instance, here's a Kapwing tutorial from over 3 years ago that does have a couple 100,000 views. And when I made this video a year ago, that had tons of views, and I was trying to compete sort of with our own video in
Yeah.
the search bar, pretty much the
Yeah.
same terms. And so I think I was really happy that like this video ended up still getting its time to shine, because our product had
Yeah.
changed so much by this point. We had so many new tools. It's a way better editor. And so we really wanted to make sure that like the new version of that was being seen instead of the other one.
Hmm.
And I think it's been relatively successful. So happy with that for sure.
Yeah. Any of the signals for this video stand out to you? It being so different, like is the watch time or average view time or CTR look significantly different than like
Yeah.
our base rate or?
Yeah, so I mean, the average view duration is definitely smaller. I think this is
Mm,
to be expected because, number one, this is a super long video, over 20
mhm.
minutes. Getting someone to watch that is tough. Also, you can see here it's like very chaptered. There's lots of different chapters. So if someone comes to this video looking for a specific like tutorial on a specific tool, they might only be
Yeah.
watching a minute chunk, and that's
Yeah.
fine. We want that video to be that resource for them, and that is why we do chapter videos super heavily in like long videos like this. So I don't have a
Mhm.
problem with that. I think that's completely fine. This video again, yeah, search is important, as is like this video is embedded everywhere. So I think that's a different sort of strategy for making this video like go viral, is like our website actually has a big
Yeah.
impact.
Yeah.
In terms of CTR, it is lower than the other ones. The last one I showed had 19%. The previous one had 11. It's still pretty high compared to our like channel
Mhm.
average. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely something that like you go looking for. You have to know of
Yeah.
Kapwing. You have to not know probably how to use a certain tool in Kapwing. So like this is the video. So it's very specific.
Yep.
But yeah, those are sort of the main differences, I think.
Yep. But it does seem to be like these videos do a decent job of catching people who are kind of like they're brand aware. They've heard the name, maybe
Definitely.
need more details, and you do need to catch those folks as well. So
Yeah, and
interesting.
especially because we would rather us catch them too than like we love that obviously creators are making tutorials about Kapwing who aren't Kapwing, but
Right.
like we
Right.
get the full revenue. If they're affiliates, we're gonna lose out on some of that. So it's also
Mhm.
in our best interest to make our own content as well.
Yep.
Um,
Makes sense.
for the next one, here is one about how to resize videos for YouTube Shorts. You can see still getting views. You know, pretty consistent. We've seen a little bit of leveling off. We made this a long time ago, like kind of right when YouTube Shorts were getting released for the public. And so this was
Yeah.
like definitely one where I feel like we were first and we are useful. Kapwing, the tool, is really useful for this task.
Mhm.
Again, very top of funnel. Um, Short amount of watch time, but also it's a short video, so that's sort of understandable. Um, and it's like, yeah, one really short tutorial. So, you don't want too much fluff, especially for things like this, where it's super search oriented and very simple tutorials. Like, yeah, you don't want it to be super long. You can see
Yeah.
again, over 70% search. So search has been really important for making our content go viral. In terms
Yep.
of CTR, high again, 12.5%. And yeah, again, I think this is attributed to us being really early. This is,
Mhm.
3 years ago we made this, and the thumbnail and the title are simple. It goes after key terms. It's really understandable what's
Yeah.
happening in here. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that's like definitely why this video is successful as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of these like view patterns, like the way this one levels off, makes me think possibly that this got a bit more competitive and well covered. And in addition, like I haven't checked this specific video out yet. Like perhaps there are some small details that have since been like changed about how
Yeah,
this is done, given how old the video is. But I would say like pretty definitively, even without having looked at it, it seems like a leveling off more so probably around like it's really really well covered.
yeah,
Like more people covered basically how to do this, and so the big gain for us was just like being really really early with the tutorial
and
possibly. Yeah,
like a few years ago, people might not have known. Like this is a tutorial you probably only really need to look at once, right? Like you need to
right.
learn how to
Yeah,
make a horizontal video vertical, and like once you know that, you kind of don't need to watch anymore. And like
yep.
maybe a few years ago, people didn't know how to do that. But now I think like people are getting more tech savvy, more video editing savvy, and that's like a tutorial that's like maybe a little too basic for
Right.
tons of search
More well.
engines. And yeah,
Yeah, more well understood, and you kind of figure out your workflow for it, and then you're set.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
exactly.
that makes sense. I think there is like a good comment on, yeah, for some of these tutorials, the thumbnails being probably like breaking what most people have as as kind of an assumption of what a great thumbnail looks like. And like I would say they are great thumbnails. It's just like they fit the video though. Um, it really just does not make sense for the resize video, to kind of do the YouTube classic like there's no shocked face like needed. Yeah, for like
Yeah,
I'm gonna resize. It's like it just helps to show it being done, and it immediately clicks visually of like, yeah, oh yeah, like that's what I want, actually, exactly that.
yeah,
But I think some of these have really highlighted like uh again, like some of maybe people's preconceived notions of like, what makes a video successful. Like people are going to tell you obsess over thumbnails, but then I think, the prevalence of like certain creators or certain video styles that like, make the homepage all the time or something gives people, it kind of builds up this, like, I think assumption people have about what a video that does really well looks like.
yeah,
And I think this one in particular is a really good example of like, straightforward, it's short, it's less than 10 minutes, it's half probably of 10 minutes, and then it's like
yeah,
really direct thumbnail that just shows you this is what you're going to sort of end up with,
yeah,
and targets a search term rather than recommended videos, and it's done incredibly well. So
yeah. I was about to say it definitely depends on like your strategy. If you're going for search, um, keywords, titles are really important. As is like being quick with the video. You don't
mhm,
want fluff. You don't want a long intro. Um, and yeah, the thumbnail, like I think focusing on UI, if it's like a tutorial, is more interesting than a person. Because like for a one-off tutorial, like people don't really care who's telling you about it as long as it's correct. Um,
yeah,
so yeah. For our last video to share, and then we'll get into some of our flops,
mhm,
um, is this video on text to speech on TikTok, how to use text to speech on TikTok, which is, you can see, also very old, over 3 years old.
yeah,
And so that's also something to note is like, yeah, a lot of these videos become, they're not like viral all at once, but like, yeah, slow gainers and continue to gain.
mhm,
This one, however, is an example of one that doesn't. 17 views in the past 48 hours compared to all the other ones that have had hundreds.
mhm,
And this one sort of was more all at once and then tapered off. Um, Only a minute 20 average view duration, but that's actually very high because the video is only 3 minutes long.
mhm,
Um, and in terms of CTR, really high, 18%. Um, yeah, this is a format that we've done tons of times and actually been really successful with, of platform specific tutorials. So,
yeah,
TikTok features, Instagram features, TikTok filters, how to do TikTok trends, Discord. We've done a million Discord videos. I think this is something that is, it depends. For us, this has been useful because in this video, like, we give alternatives. So there's the TikTok text-to-speech voices, but of course you can make your own text-to-speech voice. Or yeah, you don't have to edit it on your phone. You don't have to edit it in TikTok. You can make a horizontal
Yeah.
video that has
Yeah.
text-to-speech. Like we can do all that with Kapwing. And so I think it sort of focuses on like, yeah, we're showing you like what you're searching for. But if you have like a different use case, maybe that you didn't even know was like a different use case. Like maybe you thought you could only use text to speech on TikTok, then we're here to provide like that other option. So I think it was useful in that. But again, I think now sort of everyone knows how to use text to speech on TikTok. Also, things have changed a lot over 3 years. I think the UI is like different.
Right.
And yeah, this is just sort of a viral moment that like doesn't really help us anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like this one is a maybe more extreme example of like just a moment in time of like a lot of people wanted to do this exact thing,
Yeah.
but then once they were familiar with it, like perhaps the help that they needed, either diminished or just like shifted to something else, and maybe the video just obviously it can't stay up to date with how the platform changes. So okay, interesting. Yeah, and like I said, I think that the growth curves, the growth like that line really tells like an interesting kind of story sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Of like whether
definitely.
it's a slow burn, a trend that kind of died off, or just kind of like capturing the moment, and then kind of tapering off after that. So pretty interesting because lots of variety actually, even within 5 videos,
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So those are some of our most viral moments. They've been very helpful, obviously, at growing our channel, and growing just Kapwing's, top of funnel. Now, let's talk about some of the flops, of which there are many. Something to note about, making content, especially for a brand, you're going to take lots of swings and many will be misses, but really you only need like a few to like really hit to sometimes be worth it.
to make up for it.
Yeah, so the first one I'll tell you about is a video I made a couple years ago about how to stop making bad vlogs. This was sort of like a just an opinion piece that I made. I wish I could show you some of it. I guess I could actually. But not this, not an ad, but I will continue. Yeah, this was a video I actually ran around New York City telling people how to make a vlog. It was sort of a guide, lots of B-roll. It was very fun to make, giving lots of tips. I thought this was a fun video. I thought it was really different for our channel. It was definitely like a higher effort video. I had to sort of get out and film all day.
Yeah.
But it really did not pay off so well. It got, just under or over 1,000 views, which you can see compared to like our typical performance is not amazing. Barely grew subscribers, not much money, blah, blah. The average view duration is pretty on par for our channel, but I think for something like this, which is a little more opinionated, you'd like hope for a higher view duration. And if you look at the CTR, it's 1%. It's really low. This is not something you want. Again, I think it's sort of a chicken or the egg. Like, are you getting a higher CTR because you're on the front page of something being searched? Or is it because the thumbnail's amazing? Like, who really knows? It really was kind of a flop, ultimately.
Right.
Which is okay.
Do you think if when you look back, like what would you say were maybe some culprits for this one? Just like the topic and the fit of the channel, the way it was framed, like what comes to mind first?
Channel fit is definitely something. As you can see, most of our highest performing videos are search. This was not really going after search, I think. And also I could have probably done a better, I don't know, prep work in terms of like trying to find something that people are searching for. Um,
Mm.
or even just like making the title a little bit tighter. Like instead of like here's how to make your vlogs actually good, which is what it's called.
Hmm.
I chose that because I thought it was like a little cheeky, but like maybe the better thing would have been like 5 tips for vlogging, I don't know, in the city or something.
Hmm.
Um, or maybe going in depth in this video instead of going through gear, and then in the next part going through how to capture or how to create your story and your arc, and then the next one talking about, like these are all parts in this video. I wonder if I should have just like chosen one and extended it, and then the titles would have been like a little more clear in terms of like the value prop.
Yeah.
um I Yeah, so I think like that could have been changed.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah. I wonder too, like, sometimes like when a video is framed like negatively, there has to be actually a little bit more of a pressing on like, oh, I don't want to make sure I'm not doing that. So like the 5 mistakes that bad
Right.
vloggers make, or the 5 traits
Yeah,
of
that's
bad
good.
vlogs, and you want to sort of like, oh no, please let me not be making one of those or something. So like negative framing sometimes requires like a totally different sort of packaging, I think, approach
Yeah.
to like the content. So that's interesting. Yeah. And I do agree with you, like, perhaps this was just like too avant-garde for the
Yeah.
channel. It's hard to say, right? It's like you could be a multitude of things, but that's why you try to break it down for the next time. So yeah, interesting one though. And
Yeah.
I know for sure like it was interesting seeing the clip of you that's used in a lot of our landing pages, I think, for
It's
Purple
from this.
Studio and stuff as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, like, we got some value out of that. That's cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think good breakdown. I would say yeah. This is an interesting one to kind of unpack in terms of like where did we miss, and I think the channel fit might be an interesting sort of factor for this one.
Yeah. Definitely. And yeah, the lack of search. Our channel, yeah, is so search oriented, and this was like
Hmm.
not.
Yeah.
um Next, sort of another similar example, actually. So this was called "How Few Views Do You Need to Be a Full-Time YouTuber?" Um, Same number of views, actually. The view duration much higher. Really great average percentage viewed, actually, for our channel. This one
Hmm.
just did not take off. Again, I think it's because of the lack of sort of search terms. This was more of a video I was trying to go after in terms of being recommended or being suggested. I thought it was like an
Hmm.
interesting topic that subverts a lot of the videos on YouTube, which are about like how much money I make as a YouTuber, which is always a lot generally. And
Yeah.
this was like the opposite of like, here are some people or examples of, really small creators who can still
Right.
make it work. So I
Right.
actually really like the sort of like journalistic angle that I took. Um,
Hmm.
I think, um, yeah, we have an interview in here as well with a creator called Creator Wizard, which I thought was really interesting. I'm like proud of that as well.
Yeah.
Um, but the search volume just like wasn't there, and I don't think even though the average view duration was like good for our channel, it's probably not enough to like really get in the algorithm as like something
Right.
they are like really pushing. Um,
Right.
and yeah, to like in the future, going back and watching, I like reviewing this yesterday. I noticed like the beginning was really granular. It was talking about like, here's what a living wage is, like calculating that, because that was, it's all like very vague of like how few
Yeah.
views you need. It depends where you live and whatever. And I was like getting very granular with it. And I think like in hindsight, it's like, let that go. I probably
Yeah.
could have gotten like maybe a little longer view duration if that was the case.
Right.
And because yeah, I feel like I probably like lost some people
Yeah.
here. Um, but hindsight is 2020. When you got the analytics, it all makes sense. But
Yeah. Yeah. I think this one's interesting too. I think like whenever you have something that's kind of like I call them like deep cuts, like this is typically a musician sort of term in terms of like the tracks on an album that are really appreciated by the people that remember them and make it to them, but
yeah,
they're not the top 40 hits that keep the
yeah,
operation going. And I think when you have I think in content marketing, a deep cut is good engagement for the people that get to it. I think when you have bad performance and then bad engagement, it's a little bit easier to just say, like, there was something maybe sort of fundamentally wrong with how we package this, and the content just did like really not resonate.
Yeah.
But when you have pretty good engagement but just like could not sort of break through and get the reach, I think it's even more interesting to kind of consider, like, what was it that capped it. This one, I'm just, we're really going off the fly here, just like kind of spitballing. For me, I sort of wonder if like it was fighting an uphill battle with the to survive angle, because as creative as it is, like, people are more so just meaning like, but how many views for six figures or how many views for to go full time, versus like literally just to, like just to scrape by or something. Could be a reason. I think also sometimes with content, you like you mentioned, like, if we just weren't able to uncover a consistent way to distribute the video, which for YouTube really is like kind of you roll the dice on recommended, which is like
Yeah.
get the engagement you needed to get into the recommended, or, and you're probably, this probably explains to a degree like why so many of our top performing videos get all their views or get most of their views from search. Just making sure that there's some kind of search term with legs that's going to stick around, and whatever traction you're able to get with the video from other sources, long term you're betting on being discovered in YouTube search, and like that's going to be your ticket, right?
Right.
So yeah, interesting. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, like, these are always some of the most fun to unpack. Like, we had good engagement for the people that made it, but why didn't we sort of like break through?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's also, again, like, important to keep a relative headspace in terms of like, okay, this was a flop in terms of views, but like there are still like good things about it. Like, I
Yeah.
met Creator Wizard and got to interview him, and now we have like a relationship and
Mhm.
great community building. And yeah, things like that can also be like really helpful. So it's not a complete like
Yeah.
flop, but
Yeah.
it was not a view a view monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Lastly, this was another interview. This one performed a little better, 3,000 views. Again, it's like not a complete flop. Some YouTube channels will probably be amazed to get 3,000 views, but like
Mhm.
we're really shooting for bigger here. This is a video titled "What a Creator with 15 Million Followers Can Teach You About Social Media Success," featuring Cowbelly. Probably a very long title, maybe a little too long. But yes, this guy right here is the CEO of this meme company called Cowbelly.
Mhm.
Um, we interviewed him about sort of like the power of memes, the power of Discord, which is where all their infrastructure for their company actually lives in, which is really interesting. I thought it was a really interesting topic, but yeah, just kind of didn't perform. A minute 43 view duration, 21%. Here's like a little snippet of the video. Yeah, so it's me interviewing Cowbelly, who is Graham. And yeah, it just like really didn't go anywhere. I think, again, it has really few search potential, really small search potential. And you kind of have to know, I feel like, who he is, because even though he does have 15 million followers, like, he's not like a household name in a way. And so it didn't really have like the impact of like, a huge name either.
Yeah.
Even though that's sort of like what I was going for, which maybe was a mistake. But yeah, just really didn't perform. I liked the interview, but the it's look at the material. it didn't go well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's marketing. Is like, I don't do this for my health, So
Yeah.
as much as I've made stuff too that I personally like, it's like, right, the numbers don't lie. Yeah, I again, just spitballing is like maybe the interview format, at the time, perhaps like a bit too much of a break from the channel's like
Yeah.
usual content or something. Um, I also agree, like this one kind of niche in terms of it's like, if you don't know this person or like the industry, the industry, the topics that they operate in. He's got the number, but it's maybe hard to kind of figure out like, but is he going to be able to teach me at the stage that I'm
Right.
at? It's tough. Yeah, it's tough
It's
to.
vague. It's too vague.
Yeah, it's tough to kind of it's tough to kind of like feel out like, is this going to be enough? Like, is this
Yeah.
packaging going to be enough? And then this is why you look back, because it helps you kind of determine like, oh, in the future, somebody's big follow kind of numbers would not maybe be enough to break through. It would need to be like more precise, and that's a super important like learning. So yeah, like that's kind of like, yes, it is cliche. Yes, people say this a lot, but when you're dealing with this stuff that is, it can only really sort of be understood like looking in the rearview mirror and seeing patterns over time. Like that is content creation, is you have to actually look in reverse and see like, oh, this worked for my channel, or this style really does work, or we can deliver on this better than other people, or we can't. Like, you just have to try. So that's what I think, like doing these like retrospectives on like, wins and sins on your content is like really important.
Yeah.
And I think to like kind of close off today, like it'd be fun to maybe do sort of like lightning round with you in just terms of like, what did we learn, going viral, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
we've kind of expanded, or at least hopefully defined what we sort of view in terms of like going viral, right? It's all relative to the video type and the channel type and
Yeah.
where you get the views from. But yeah, I mean, I would say like, for me, maybe I'll kick an idea to you. Maybe you can give one to me, in terms of like, what are the takeaways here? I would say I would actually just go back to my previous point. I think one of the takeaways for me is like, you have to experiment like a lot.
Yeah.
It might seem like the pattern is obvious with some of our winningest, most viewed videos now, but I think like the videos that worked, we sort of had to discover the pattern of like, oh, that's what really works for us. Oh, like YouTube search is the best long-term view source for us. This style or these topics tend to work the best for us. But like, it just seems so obvious when you have all this data, which we didn't, kind of starting out. So I would say one that I would maybe put forward is just like, you have to experiment a lot, but don't experiment without sort of building a trail of like, do look back at what's doing well, what isn't, and trying to go a little bit deeper, go beneath the surface in terms of like, what can we learn from this so that future videos have like a better chance of being, sort of successful more consistently. So
Yeah.
that would be maybe my first takeaway.
Definitely. Yeah, I think number two, obviously, you can see on all of our top videos is that, search and going after keywords, going after where there is traffic is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the best content for us has been, in terms of views at least, have been like slow climbs that, follow keywords where there is a lot of search traffic. I'm thinking of the alarm, how to make any sound your alarm, which is our highest viewed video on our entire channel, over 5 million views, and just keeps going. And the line is like straight and to the right, like it's
Still.
the same
Yep.
line. Finding those really, I don't know, those keywords where like maybe there's not a lot of resources, but there's a lot of traffic, and it's like you can make a really quick and effective video,
Yeah.
is really helpful.
Yeah.
And then just go after those. And I think worry less about like what's hot right now and more about like
Mhm.
the long-term tools that you could, or the long-term value you could give people through a video.
Yeah, yeah, I think it also highlights like the need to measure, like to give some of this content some room to breathe, if that's your approach.
Totally.
Because
Yeah.
if we were to sort of call it on a video with like always within the first 30 days, or even like extend that out to like 6 months, right? Like, it's kind of like SEO, and then it's like you do sort of need to not just do an assessment of like the videos we've made recently, but also just like how our older videos, like you said, having an impact over time. Because a lot of the examples we showed today, like the second wind, third wind in some cases, for videos is happening a year plus later. So
Yeah.
something to keep in mind is that like, if you're going to take this approach to YouTube, the approach that we take, a little more search oriented, you have to look at the big picture. You have to look at a kind of the life cycle, the long-term impact of a video, not just the
Yeah,
first 30 days. Yeah.
and even I feel like there's a lot of pressure to even just look at, like, the first week performance sometimes, because then
Yeah.
you're on to the
Yeah.
next video, and
Yeah.
if YouTube is telling you it's performed, like, it's always telling you when you upload, like, "This video is number 3 out of your last 10 in terms of performance, in the same time frame," and it's, like, been, like, 3 days, and you're like, "Oh, this is a flop." Like, there are
Yeah.
actually so many videos that I've made that I've been like, "Oh, well, great, I made another flop," and then yeah, 6 months I come back and, oh, it has 30,000
Yep.
views. Like, I
Yep.
didn't realize that at all.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely, like, keep your mind open and make sure to check back, and keep an eye out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another one that I sort of noticed that I do think it offers a nice counterbalance to what we've been saying though, is like when a topic has like there's some substance to it. It's not just like, yes, there is the risk of some topics being kind of like flash in the pan. You may get some benefit out of them, but then the fall off is kind of harsher. I think we saw some videos today where it's like that wasn't the case. There was sort of definitely a slowdown in the video's growth, but you can certainly attribute like its overall success to being like we were just early to the topic,
Yeah,
right? Not
definitely.
necessarily like trend hopping, but just like it was undercovered. It really didn't have a good solution at the time, and the content kind of just being early and being meeting the demand before other people had met it played a pretty significant role, even when you're not just like hopping from trend to trend, right? So I think if you
Yeah,
see an idea, time is a wasting, like the clock is always ticking, and it's better to just like get something out there that's good and beats all the current solutions or just like solves the problem end to end, rather than sort of like waiting to get something like perfect, right?
definitely. Yeah, NFT video, good example. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think also talking about sort of our titles and thumbnails, I think some people thumbnails specifically, like, some people are, like, freaks about thumbnails. Um, and they are important for sure. I think titles are probably even more important because you wanna go after those key terms, as we spoke about earlier, but also they need to be relevant, they need to match the video, they need to match your channel, they need to match, um, you know, I don't know, they don't have to be this crazy over the top, insane,
Yeah.
"Ah, oh
Mr.
my
Beast
god."
style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Beast, like, I don't know, you don't have to do that, especially if you're a brand, like, maybe that's even, I don't know, undervaluing, like, your content. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, like, maybe go for something that's more straightforward, that's easy to understand, images of UI, if you're showing tutorials rather than a face, might be
Hmm.
more interesting. Titles that go after exactly what someone's looking for, rather than some of the vague ones like I have even done, like, what you need to know from this guy with 15 million followers. Like, no one's, I don't know, be
Yeah.
more specific.
What what's it
Give
gonna be?
them,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
give them what they want ultimately. Like, give the
Yep.
people what they want.
Yep. And like yeah, very consistent theme here in terms of like having basically or really more like committing to like what is the distribution sort of going to look like for this video, like, and you have pretty limited options. Like it either is like breakout and recommended, or it's the slow build and search, or in some cases, I think it could be like lots of like on site usage. So
Yeah,
embedded views or something might be like a major factor, but you're picking a pretty small set of options. And it seems like a kind of related lesson is like you really just need to commit and go all in on that and not try to mix and match. Like, don't try to do the intrigue thumbnail for a video that really needs to be discovered in search. And when I'm searching something and I see it and it literally tells me in text and shows me I'm going to get exactly that, like that's actually extremely clickable.
yeah,
The intrigue would actually be worse in terms of its
yeah,
its like ability to be compelling, right? So
yeah,
that's really interesting too. Yeah. And I think like I think like a final point to make here is just like how viral has, you know, viral is an extremely relative term. Viral needs to be seen like in context of the current size of your YouTube presence, for one. Be happy and be willing to unpack outsized successes even when your numbers are looking smaller than ours, if your channel is just smaller. And our channel is obviously a lot smaller than like major creators, so that's the same thing there. But also like video to video, like video type, right?
Yeah.
Whether the purpose of the video was truly to just like maximize the amount of reach that it could get, or whether it, we do want to make something directly about our product, or something a little bit more bottom of funnel, if you want to call it that, just like closer to our product, closer to kind of a smaller audience segment. And so then like success is like really relative, right? It's kind of hard to tune the dial or get like a data driven answer to like what's the cap for a product tutorial video versus like a trends video. There's no perfect answer, but I think you'll see some patterns when you make enough videos that it's like, okay, well, this beat all the other tutorials we've ever done by 3x. That is an amazing video, even if it doesn't break within our top 25 videos or something, right?
Yeah.
So I think having a holistic sort of view on the term viral, and just really a more nuanced view on like what success means for a video, and maybe kind of just internally defining that, for your content. Like we're making these videos for this purpose, we're going to measure them on their ability to do this, and we're making these videos for reach, and it is all about viewer retention and watch time, and that's it. And like we'll sort of measure the spillover impact a different way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So lots of ways you can go about it, but I do think like just like you wouldn't for sort of like written content, traditional written content, should not have a sort of one size fits all like metric for success for videos, or just for virality,
Definitely, yes. They also, important to note that like a video with 1/10 of the views, if it's more suited to your product, or even 100th of the views or whatever, could be more impactful than a video that goes viral that has nothing to do with your product or channel. So
we, none of us are sort of waiting on like the YouTube check. We're all sort of like, all of us marketers are waiting on the product signups to determine ultimate success. So, the reach of the video is merely one factor, right?
Right.
But important to keep in mind. Yeah,
definitely. So those are some of our lessons for going viral over the past 6 years, having a YouTube channel as a company. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about in the future episodes. We're always happy to consider those topics. And Greg, it's been real. Oh, subscribe. Don't forget, we're here every week.
Yeah. It's been awesome. And I just like to echo Jack's sentiment. Anything you'd like us to explore or break down, or other sort of like looks behind the scenes, happy to do it. It's been awesome.
All right. See you guys in the next one. Later.
Take care.